Hi everyone, I am Tetsuya. Thank you for watching my video again today. So today, I am going to introduce what I am surprised about in Malaysia. Malaysia and Japan are only 6 to 7 hour flight, but there are a lot of interesting differences between two countries. Out of them, I am going to introduce 5 things I was surprised about in Malaysia. This is my Japanese reaction to Malaysia. So let me get started. So the first thing I was surprised about on Malaysia is changing languages quickly. In Malaysia, people speak a few languages generally. And in Malaysia, there are 3 main ethnicities, and they are Malay people, Chinese people, and Indian people. And each of them speak their own mother tongue. Malay people speak Malay, Chinese people speak Chinese, and Indian people often speak Tamil, South Indian language. I have a lot of Malay Malaysian friends and Chinese Malaysian friends. Sometimes I meet Malay friends and Chinese friends together. At that time, when Malay friends and Chinese friends speak to me, they speak English. When Malay friends and Chinese friends speak, they speak Malay. When Chinese friends speak with Chinese friends, they speak Chinese. So, in front of me, they instantly change the languages they speak. And it is something really amazing since the 3 languages, Malay, Chinese, and English, have totally different sounds. It is really easy for everyone to be able to recognize the differences of the sounds of those 3 languages. That's why I can certainly notice they are changing the spoken languages frequently, even if those languages are not written and clearly shown. In Japan, as you can imagine, this phenomenon never happens in daily conversation among Japanese people. Most Japanese can only speak Japanese, so Japanese communicate with each other only in Japanese. That's why 2 or more than 2 language conversation never happen. So, compared to this fact, Malaysian people are amazing. So, the second thing I was surprised about on Malaysia is that Japanese famous figure entered the Malaysian market. This is a surprising thing I encountered in Malaysia a few years ago. This happened when I went to one of the famous shops in Malaysia. The shop name is DIY. At the entrance of the shops of DIY, I always saw this person. Well, what do you think I did when I saw her at DIY shop for the first time? In fact, I searched for the information of the Japanese famous figure about if the Japanese famous figure became famous also in Malaysia sometime in the past. I know you cannot get what I am talking about yet, but I am talking about this Japanese person. I think you can now understand what I thought. Yes, I thought this Japanese person entered the Japanese entertainment market and doing well because the person even became the board of a famous Malaysian shop. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any information that the Japanese person became famous in Malaysia. So I asked one of my Malaysian friends, who is this lady of DIY? Then my Malaysian friend just said this lady was a famous singer in Malaysia, and she is Malaysian. So these people are completely 2 different people. But don't you think they are identical, or at least look very similar to each other? This was so surprising to me. So the third thing I was surprised about on Malaysia is at a mosque. Well, this time I am going to talk about a bit negative experience when I visited Malaysia for the first time. When I visited Malaysia for the first time, I went to a mosque in Malaysia also for the first time. At the mosque, there was a very shocking incident. I went to the mosque near Petronas Twin Tower and was enjoying exploring there. After finishing seeing the mosque, and when I went back to the location where I took off my sandals were gone. I first wondered if I came back to the wrong location, so I looked around for my sandals. But eventually, I couldn't find my sandals anywhere around the mall. Then, I thought I had to go back on barefoot. It will be messy and too hot on the ground, and I didn't think it was possible. Fortunately, I could find someone at the mosque and explain what happened and could borrow sandals. The person I met at the mosque was so kind and hospitable, but I still was really shocked about the fact that a theft happened in such a sacred God place, a mosque. How can someone commit a theft at the God place? The God might punish the person if someone commits a crime in God place. This was so surprising and shocking. In Japan, even if people normally don't believe in God, people don't steal other people's property. So the fourth thing I was surprised about on Malaysia is sidewalks. On this topic, let me begin with a story of Japan. In Japan, when I go out, I always walk or ride a bicycle. While I am moving, I am usually on sidewalks from my home to the destination all the way long. Japanese town planning is not very good in all the cities especially. So there are often really narrow sidewalks, but I still can go through the sidewalks at least safely for me to move on. But in case of Malaysia, while I am walking on the city, I quite often encounter no sidewalk roads. So while I am walking, I lose sidewalks and have to walk on the edge of the road with really large traffic. This is really dangerous. In Japan normally, there are always a sidewalk, especially along roads with large traffic. So after I encountered roads with large traffic without sidewalks in Malaysia, I was so surprised how Malaysian people walk in this kind of dangerous place normally. But in fact, Malaysian people normally drive, so they don't have to walk on such a place. When I noticed this fact, I am so surprised. So the fifth thing I was surprised about on Malaysia is how people drive. This is also somehow very surprising thing in Malaysia. In Malaysia, it looks like cars have priority. That's why even when pedestrians are trying to cross zebra crossing, normally the cars don't stop. In Japan, at some zebra crossing, the same thing happens, but normally pedestrians or bicycle riders have priority. So cars always stop in front of them. But what's more surprising is, though Malaysian people are really nice people generally, and I have a lot of great Malaysian friends, when it comes to driving etiquette, Malaysian people's behavior suddenly changes. So my point is this gap between really nice Malaysian people and the not good driving etiquette don't match each other. This is really surprising to me. Well, between Malaysia and Japan, there are so many differences even though these countries are both in Asia. To you, which story out of these were interesting or surprising? Please feel free to share on the comments. Thank you so much for watching my video up until here today. See you in the next video.